Well, he's a narcissist. That's why he wants to put his name on everything, because he's a narcissist with a frail ego who wants affirmation and approval and wants to build legacy and thinks that's the way he does it, not understanding that the first and next Democrat who comes is going to remove all of that. He literally is like the human version of a dog that wants to pee on every hydrant in his way and mark his territory.
I mean, but he's doing it because he doesn't have a legacy, so he's trying to force
That is so false.
With that imagery,
I need you guys to stick with me until the very end of this one, because I have a few things I really want to get off my chest after we watch this debate. In this clip, CNN's Abby Phillip goes head-to-head with MAGA commentator Brianna Lyman over a debate that has become surprisingly controversial. Should Harriet Tubman appear on U.S. currency, or should Donald Trump? Now, I have to be honest, some of the arguments coming from the MAGA side genuinely caught me off guard. And the more Brianna tried to defend her position, the more heated the discussion became. Now, if you're new here, I'm Bradley Hostin, and this is The Bradley Hostin Show. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. I need you guys to stay with me until the very end, because after we watch this clip, I want to explain why I think this debate goes far beyond a dollar bill and says something much bigger about how we choose to remember history, celebrate public figures, and view American politics today. As usual, let's watch the clip, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts afterwards.
10 years ago, a plan was introduced to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. So what's the status of that now? Here's the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Is Treasury still planning to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill?
We are not at present.
Bessent didn't elaborate on that, but when he was asked about plans to put President Trump's image on a potential $250 bill, he left the door open.
Well, the 250 requires an act of Congress because you can't have a living person, and it was to commit for the 250th anniversary for us to change on an existing bill, whether it's a 1 through 100, takes many years in advance.
Over the last several months, a lot of people have asked me, what's up with the Harriet Tubman thing? Now we know it's not going anywhere because they're really focused on getting Trump's name, his signature, his face on our currency. For what reason, I'm really not sure.
Well, and to be clear, the $250 bill is commemorative, so it's not necessarily legal tender that's going to be out in circulation. I also think it's important to note that under Joe Biden, they also delayed the Harriet Tubman bill, so it's not just necessarily a Trump problem. That being said,
they revived it, and it takes time.
Sure. That being said,
I don't think it's fair to say that they delayed it.
Look, you put faces on money to commemorate American icons, and I think that there are only a limited number of bills: 1, 2, 5, 10, 20. 150. So there has to be a very selective process. And Harriet Tubman absolutely deserves recognition, which she has recognition already. But I do think that the burden is put on Democrats to explain why Harriet Tubman, first of all, out of every option, hold on, let me finish, please. Right. Out of every option, especially someone like Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is a man who nonetheless, he saved the Union during the nullification crisis. He was a war hero in 1815. He actually vetoed the second charter of the bank, which was seen at the time as a way to take power away from the rich and elites. This is a man who...
What's the argument against Harriet Tubman?
What's the argument for Harriet Tubman?
What's the argument for Donald Trump getting a $250
Harriet
bill?
Tubman? Do we have to do a history lesson?
But why over anyone else? Why over Andrew Jackson?
I mean, because I think she represents the importance of regular people in this country taking justice and history in their own hands and doing the right thing.
But the purpose of commemorative faces on money is not just for great
women
Americans.
like her, if you're a conservative, you should love Harriet Tubman. She was a gun-toting,
it's not an argument.
abolitionist.
It's not that she's
not to mention that
she was a everyday American hero.
And in that 250th
I
anniversary.
don't know, but my point is, I think in fairness, I don't hear conservatives saying she does not deserve any kind of recognition.
What she just
I didn't say any kind of recognition.
The conversation has always been...
we have to make a case for why Harriet Tubman...
But this administration has been
why should she displace Andrew Jackson?
The argument is about the replacement of Andrew Jackson. That was the initial argument, and that was why there was pushback initially. Put her on a new bill. I don't care. I mean, I don't think...
Put her on the 250.
Put her on the 250.
Put her on the 250.
So I would be okay with that as well.
Is Donald Trump on the 250
I don't
when they would have to
think
pass
he
an
should
act
be
of
on
Congress?
it, but it's not going to happen. I don't think it should. I think it was stupid for them to even have this conversation I get that Harriet Tubman is deserving of something, 100%. Put it on a new bill. This idea that we're going to suddenly just remove people from tender for political reasons, for historical, whatever the reason is, you just open up a slippery slope. Why specific to Jackson? Why not Washington? But you can make these arguments forever. So why don't we just be respectful and say a new bill?
Look, I mean, Harriet Tubman represents everything that Donald Trump is not, right? There's somebody who put her body on the line, who was a regular person.
Donald Trump was shot and nearly killed for trying to be president.
Stop. Okay,
no, it did happen. I hate to remind you.
My God. Okay, well, you should talk to the MAGA folks who don't believe that Butler was real, but that's a different conversation.
That's
There's a lot of people out there that are saying, including Candace Owens.
You believe that it's not real?
No, I believe.
Okay, well, then just accept it.
But regardless.
Wait, can we talk about the bill?
Let's talk about the bill instead of making it about something else. I mean, Harriet Tubman put her life and her body on the line. She deserves recognition. Donald Trump is desperate for some type of cultural relevancy. He's putting his name on everything. He put his name on our passports this year. He's putting his face on the dollar bill. It's disgusting.
He put his face in the passport, which, as far as I know, has never been done before.
He put his name on the Kennedy Center, which has now been removed. He put his name on the passport.
Here's what a viewer says. We have slave owners on bills. We can have Harriet on a bill.
Agreed.
And it would be the first African American on legal tender. I mean, in 250 years of American history, there has never been an African American on a bill.
I'd argue MLK is probably a better option than Harriet Tubman if we're trying to find someone who fits a certain demographic.
The universe of honorable people who could deserve such an honor is massive. The question that keeps coming back to me is, why is President Trump so obsessed with all of this self-aggrandizement, putting his name and face on the passport, on dollar bills, on buildings all over Washington, D.C., marring buildings and changing the names illegally to put his name on it? It is in such poor taste and out of step with exactly where the country happens to be at the moment. It's bad for him and his legacy, I suspect, and bad for the party that he is supposed to represent. And it doesn't really seem to serve the country in any sort of way.
Well, he's a narcissist. That's why he wants to put his name on everything, because he's a narcissist with a frail ego who wants affirmation and approval and wants to build legacy and thinks that's the way he does it, not understanding that the first and next Democrat who comes is going to remove all of that. He literally is like the human version of a dog that wants to pee on every hydrant in his way and mark his territory.
I mean, but he's doing it because he doesn't have a legacy, so he's trying to force
That is so false.
With that imagery, we'll...
So let me give you guys my thoughts, because I think this debate raises a really important question. Why do you think Brianna Lyman was so quick to defend Andrew Jackson over Harriet Tubman? I'm genuinely interested to hear your answers, so let me know down in the comments. For me, this isn't just about who appears on a dollar bill. It's about what and who we choose to celebrate. When you look at Harriet Tubman's life, it's honestly remarkable. She escaped slavery in Maryland, risked her life by returning to the South again and again to help others escape, and never lost a single person on those missions. During the Civil War, she served the Union as a nurse, scout, and even helped lead a military operation. After the war, she continued fighting for women's voting rights. She became a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the fight for freedom. That's why I've always found it difficult to understand why honoring Harriet Tubman on American currency became so controversial in the first place. Then you have Andrew Jackson. There's no denying he played a significant role in American history, but there's also no denying that his legacy includes owning enslaved people and supporting policies like the Indian Removal Act, which remain deeply controversial today. So when Brianna Lyman immediately reached for Andrew Jackson instead of Harriet Tubman, I couldn't help but wonder why. Now, maybe she'll say it was simply because Jackson was already on the $20 bill. If that's her reasoning, fair enough. People can judge that explanation for themselves. But I also think it's fair for people to ask broader questions about what these choices say and why certain historical figures generate so much resistance while others don't. At the end of the day, this debate isn't really about a piece of paper. It's about whose contributions we choose to recognize, whose stories we tell, and what values we want future generations to remember. That's why I think this conversation matters. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more news commentaries. I'll see you guys in the next one.